Okay, I would like to welcome everybody to the February 10th Select Board meeting. Can we do a roll call to order?
Mantrick here.
Hardikoff here.
Gibson here. Sakosha here. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, agenda review and approval. The only thing that I need to add to the consent agenda is the acceptance for the terms for the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Committees Amendment as presented.
Say that one more time, sir.
Accepted the terms of the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Amendment as presented to reflect the change of period of performance dates from December 22nd, 2024 to December 22nd, 2025.
This is for the grant for engineering on Pond Hill Road. It's federal dollars, and the period of performance was extended. The proposal.
Item F.
I move that we add this to consent agenda, item F.
Second.
Roll call.
Mantrick, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Capello, aye.
Gibson, aye.
Sakosha, aye. Okay. Reviewed, amended. Okay, now we're going to open up our public comment session. This is one of two public comments sessions in the meeting. So if anybody in studio or online would like to come up and speak, make sure the green button's live. And okay, nobody in studio or online. So I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, and I am going to migrate towards the podium. Okay, so we're here to honor a couple of top contributing members to the community. And this first one is the founder and leader of Don't Trash Barrington, a volunteer-driven initiative focused on a monthly roadside cleanups throughout town. Also serving as members of the town's Transfer Station and Recycling Center Committee, Deb collaborates with staff and volunteers to educate residents and implement innovative solutions for reducing solid waste in Barrington. Known for using photography and social media, Deb effectively engages the community by sharing educational posts on topics such as proper trash disposal, recycling, composting, and reducing the environmental impact of waste. The litter collection walks led by Deb have become multi-generational volunteer events that unite residents, inspire outdoor activity, and foster collective action towards a cleaner and greener Barrington. Also, she is one of her biggest accomplishments is being a proud mother to a U.S. Army Green Beret, and that would be Deborah Clough. Why don't you give her a hand? Come on up, Deb.
Select board members have some things to say as well.
Yes.
So in addition to the many things already stated, for those that don't know, Deb is a fierce advocate for composting and helped lead Barrington's initiative to bring composting to the transfer station.
Deb's an energetic motivator who inspires people of all ages to get involved and to give back to their community. Thank you.
Deb is a thoughtful and skilled communicator who effectively uses social media and signage to spread the good word about the proper transfer station usage, the new Mr. Fox composting program, and many more trash management issues here in town.
As a member of the transfer station committee also, she collaborates with everyone and has brought her expertise not only locally but also from her experience in Dover, and continues to do that, and she's committed to the whole Seacoast area, cleaning it up, trying to improve all the trash collection in the area, but especially in Barrington. Thank you.
You're gonna get one back there, though.
Hi.
There you go.
Thank you very
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Deb.
We're gonna get some pictures too. Okay, so up next, this year we decided to add another award, and this award is more for longevity. You know, I've been there since the start and continued just over the years, tremendous amounts of volunteerism. This next individual is a dedicated longtime member and former chair of the Conservation Commission. He has devoted countless hours to the meetings, projects, interorganizational collaborations, recruitment, and conservation initiatives. With his leadership, the Conservation Commission has pioneered an innovative approach to advising the Planning Board on wetland buffer impacts. His thoughtful counsel has been invaluable to both the Commission and the town. In addition to his work with the Conservation Commission, he's also served as Barrington's member of the New Hampshire House of Representatives. His enduring legacy of service and leadership continues to benefit the community, and his contributions will continue to inspire the future generations of volunteer leaders in the community. And that person would be Ken Grossman. Come on up, Ken. We got a select board has a couple of comments for you.
Thank you, Ken. Ken is a kind and compassionate leader who carefully grew the membership of the Conservation Commission and prepared the group for his ultimate departure from the role. Just a personal note, I want to thank Ken too, as when I first joined the select board as liaison to the Conservation Commission, he really, like a mentor, and shared all the action of it, about the Conservation Commission.
Ken, to a friend, you're a champion for civic engagement who always finds a balance between carefully listening and articulating advocacy.
And Ken is a true collaborator with a humble ability to find compromise in any group that he's working with.
In addition to his work with the Conservation Commission over these years, Ken's been a real advocate for our town and our community. I've known Ken for 8 years now, and he's actively interested and works very hard, not only for the Conservation Commission, but also for all of Barrington, all of this seacoast, all of New Hampshire. So thank you, Ken, very much for everything.
Ken would like to say a few words.
So I would like to thank you all. I'm truly humbled, and although I'm humble, I'm not too humble to say I'm humble. But what I wanted to say really is, and I just said goodbye to John Wallace, and we made a joke of my saying, I stand on the back of giants. Well, John was a giant, and he conserved a heck of a lot of land for this. And I'm succeeded by Doug Bogan, who's a brilliant naturalist and who knows, perhaps better than I do, how to get the best out of preserving the natural world that surrounds us. And as far as the rest of the gang of the Conservation Commission, I think I recruited you all. and what I want to say about that is that there was a principal of a high school where I worked, and he said, when I started out being a principal, I was afraid to hire people who were smarter than I am. And then it hit me. You hire people who are smarter than you are because they make you look good. And you guys made me look good, and I thank you for that.
Could we have you back up? We're going to do a brief recess for a couple of pictures, and then we'll continue the meeting.
So select board members want to step out here.
Have them in the middle. Right in the middle, guys.
Wonderful. That's all right. That's great. All right, everybody right here? Yep. Fantastic. 1, 2, 3. I'll step out of the way in case anybody else wants to get. Stop. Right. Stop. Stop. Awesome.
All right.
And they're supposed to stay up for a full year, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Good job, Jim.
Comments?
Takes a village, man.
Okay. Do we have, I don't think we have any in studio. Do we have any school board liaison online?
No, and Carrie reached out saying she wouldn't be able to make tonight's meeting.
10-4, okay. All right, that is going to bring us next to Conservation Commission land acknowledgement.
You can rotate that a little bit more towards this way if you want, Jack. The podium.
Thank you. Jack Gale with the Barrington Conservation Commission. The Barrington Trails Committee voted, and we sent up to the Barrington Conservation Commission a statement that we adopted from South's Abenaki land acknowledgement that's being used on South properties. We'd like to be able to put it on our kiosks and our other communications. It reads, "We are located on the Dikina, which is the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Pennacook, and Wabanaki peoples, past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land and waterways and the Al-Nobak, or people, who have stewarded Nadakina throughout the generations." We're not admitting anything or giving any land back. We're just acknowledging, and we're doing our best to preserve the lands as closest to the way they had them. Since we're putting it up on town land, we would like the town leaders to approve this.
Beautiful. Any discussion, questions from the board?
No,
Great.
I know many organizations do this, and I think it's a good thing for our town to acknowledge our generations
Yes.
before us.
Agreed. Well, I'd like to make a motion to adopt do we have to go to a vote?
Yeah, vote on it.
Yep. Okay. Well, no, public comment.
No.
Okay. Well, I would like to make a motion to adopt the land acknowledgement statement as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Nanchuk, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Happy LOI?
Gibson, aye.
Sakoshai.
I'd like to point out that at least some of your trails are as close as I can tell, old Pennacook trails from their winter homeland up by Concord down to the coast, and several of the trails now actually go along those trails, along the Isinglass in particular.
They, for the same reasons we love them and hike them, they used them. We snowshoed this Saturday, and our hike leader noted that we're on a deer trail, which means the deer used them, which means the people that lived here before us probably followed them there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up under public hearings and invited guests, we have the Paul Panish from the Energy Committee to give us the update on the Barrington Community Power.
Yes, and I apologize.
Just make sure your mic's green.
Yeah, just back up. Thanks. Of course, thank you.
Why, good evening, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Actually, we'll decide after this presentation. Okay, what I wanted to do, after 5 consecutive rate periods for the first time in the history of the the coalition, the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. They have announced rates. They had 2 announcements, and they have ended up at a rate that for the first time is higher than all the utilities in the state. I felt that because of that, it was necessary for me to come to the board and present what was going on, what the rate structure was, and the reasons for why this had happened, and what some of the choices are that can be made by both the board and the community in this regard. So starting out, I have, can you see this? Yes, okay.
If
so
you hit start on the presentation, it'll probably get bigger for us.
Oh, good idea. There you go.
Perfect.
So this is the rate and the fees for that the utilities are charging for their default service. Interestingly, what happened was, I don't know if you recall, but rate announcements are typically made at 30 days before the end of the year and commensurately in June, I believe. The coalition made an announcement about the rates that would be going into effect February 1st. And at that time, they chose a rate that was just slightly below Eversource, but it was above Liberty Unitil, the electric cooperative. For the first time in their history, they had to modify that, which they did at the end of January. This is the final rate that they've arrived at, and I'll go into the reasons for that. So currently, the Eversource rate through July 31st is 8.929 cents, and the coalition will be at 9.7 cents. So they are significantly above, depending on what you call significant. The reasons for the rate increase are, the main one was that they had been negotiating for a number of months now a power purchase agreement from a biomass facility in the North Country that was to provide 30% of their power. Everything had been lined up for that. They were literally ready to switch on for February 1st, and around the 28th of January, something fell through on the biomass plant side. I don't know what it was. I haven't been privy to those conversations. Because of the hedge requirements that are policy for the coalition, that meant that they had to purchase power quickly to make up for that loss. And they had to purchase power at a higher price because of that. Those are required policies in place for risk mitigation. The other thing that took place was they have a load-serving entity called Calpine. It's one of their contractors. And Calpine is the entity that purchases power from New England ISO on behalf of the coalition. They also extend credit to the coalition, and as a result, to a certain extent, they can express their desires, and they hold a lot of sway. They had a minimum requirement for what the rate would be, also for risk management on their part. The other part of this was that they did not, I don't know if you remember, I've spoken previously about the concept of joint reserves. It's a fund reserve that the coalition is building up. They have various targets which are being built up now. But since it's a relatively new entity, they are not at the levels that they want to be over the long term. The purpose of those reserves is so that they can act to stabilize prices and use them for various other things. But primarily, it's a stabilization mechanism. They did not want to risk spending excess funds on from those joint reserves to support the rate at this point. It would have damaged their target goals and set them back a couple of years, perhaps. So these were all the factors that went into the decision. And it was a long, painful decision. The meetings took place starting back at the end of 2024 in December. I sat in on 3 meetings where this was discussed. These were risk management committee meetings, financial committee meetings, and board meetings. and it was taken very seriously. I was actually very impressed. This is to give you an idea of what some of the costs have been and the benefits. The customer savings from the coalition through the end of January were, I had thought they were going to be $250,000. They came in slightly under that, was $228,800. The projected loss as a result of this rate increase, and this is all loss compared to if customers had gone with the Eversource default rate. So when I'm talking about savings and losses, that's what I'm referring to.
Paul, can I ask you to clarify customer? Is that in Barrington? Is that in?
That is Barrington customers. Yeah, this was, they have an analyst who, I asked him for this, I believe, on Thursday evening, and he pulled these numbers together for me in a day, which was, I didn't think we were going to get this. I was very pleased with it. So what he estimated using prior energy uses numbers to project to the future, looking at the number of customers, he projected that the loss as a result of the slightly higher rate than Eversource through July 31st of this year will be $77,550 roughly. So that will bring down the cumulative savings through that period to slightly over $150,000. And the average, he prepared all these numbers, so I might as well give them to you. The projected customer savings per month, which had been around $72, will go down to $46 a month on average. I'm sure that one of the questions that you're going to have is, what are the projections for the future about what this means, where are rates going to go after the current rate period? And that is not something that I can speculate on. Things are changing rapidly. There are legislative actions in play. There's some PUC docket items, which I'll get into a bit. And there are new utility rate structures for all of the utilities in the state, which affect this as well. One thing that I wanted to show everyone and make clear is the effect that community power has had in the limited time that they've been in existence on utility rates in New Hampshire. They are a huge market force. They currently have roughly 25 to 30% of the customer base in the state. So they exert a strong influence. And what they have done, just in the 2.5 years that they've been in existence, they have brought the rate structures for all the utilities down very significantly. As you can see from this graph, they have, so in the first rate period, they were lower than everyone except the New Hampshire Co-op. Since then, they've been lower, the lowest of any of the utilities up until this rate period. And it has been their action which has pushed down rates and improved the competitive environment in the state for power. So what can be done about this? There are two, I want to consider this in two different ways, what individual customers can do and what the town could do. So the individual customers have a few options. They can remain with community power, and I'm not advocating for any action, any of these actions here. I am impartial on this. They can remain with community power. Obviously, they don't need to do anything if that's what they want to do. They can opt out of community power and fall back to the Eversource default rate. There's no penalty. It would take effect at the billing period after they elect to change. They would do this at the same website that they might have used to enroll or that they might have used to look for information. The link is here. And one important thing to keep in mind is if they do choose to opt out at this time, they will not be re-enrolled automatically. They would have to take a deliberate action to go back to the website and re-enroll. They will not be solicited for participation, and they will not be re-enrolled. The other choice that they have is to enroll with another third-party provider. To do that, they would have to opt out in the same way that they did just to opt out as if they were going to Eversource default. They would then be put on Eversource default, and then they could enroll with a different third-party provider. And the New Hampshire Public Utilities Commission has a website that's devoted to this, showing all of the prices involved. So those are the individual options. The town has other options. They can remain with the Community Power Coalition, obviously. They can also choose to withdraw from the coalition and return to default service from Eversource. We went over this when we went over the aggregation plan, what was involved. And it's important to recognize that there are some requirements on this. I'm not clear on whether a warrant article would be required. However, since there was a warrant article to join the coalition, I believe there would need to be a warrant article to withdraw. It would be an extended process. The coalition has made power purchases, hedging agreements, purchasing power for the town in advance, and this can be done up to 18 months in advance. I don't believe they're that far out at this point in time. I think the most they're out is somewhat under a year. Those purchases would have to be unwound, and the town does have an obligation to settle any financial obligations they may have to the coalition. So those are the options open to the town. I do want to go over, some of the benefits that I see in the organization. One has been, and this has been very graphically demonstrated to me, that the open processes that they engage in, and it's not just open to me, these are meetings that can be attended virtually or in person by anyone who wants to take part. They're very impressive, and although they are learning, it is a learning process for many of the members of the various committees involved. They are an incredibly talented crew of people. They've offered Barrington residents a wider choice of product offerings. We haven't taken much advantage of that, but there are different levels of sustainable contributions that can be enrolled for by the customers in the town. They've also been advocates for public and competitive positions before the legislature and have been very active in PUC and DOE dockets, which are in progress now. Those have involved net metering, utility rate structure, and they're also trying to encourage time of use billing, which would be difficult here because new meters would have to be purchased. They also have offered participation or consultation in local generation options for towns that have been interested. Barrington hasn't taken advantage of that yet. Other towns have. One thing that I did want to discuss, I had mentioned that there is a utility rate structure change that is taking place. What's happening is up until now, the utilities, except for the New Hampshire Co-op, which is not an investor-owned utility, but the utilities have been required to purchase power in advance of all of their rate setting. So things have been completely fixed. They knew what was coming up. There was no risk involved. And they could set their rates to recoup their money from their customer base. That wasn't always done in a very talented manner. And as a result, they have ended up, they undercharged their commercial base about a year ago by $6 million. And the PUC put forward a proposal that that charge should be recouped from the general public, including customers who are not purchasing power from the utility. This has been contested. This is one of the areas of advocacy. The new rate structures that the PUC has proposed for the utilities are a split. Eversource would be required to pre-purchase 70% of its power requirements, and 30% would be bought on the spot market. This is a significant change. It opens up significant risk to the utilities in that they can underprice or underestimate what they may need to expend on power purchases for those spot market purchases. What the PUC has proposed is that if they underprice that and don't collect enough funds, those funds would be made up through the stranded cost recovery mechanism, which would be spread across all ratepayers, regardless of whether they get their power from Eversource or not. This is an extremely anti-competitive move on the part of the PUC, and it is being contested in a docket before them, primarily by the Community Power Coalition. Though interestingly, I believe the other utilities are also not in support of this.
Do we have an idea on how many customers? If it's like 6 million over 1,000 people, or?
I couldn't tell you how many commercial customers that is. I don't have that information. That actually is probably.
Well, the 6 million was going to be divvied up across everybody, right?
That was going to be spread across the entire state rate base, yes.
Not just the commercial rate payers.
Right.
That their deficit was from their commercial power purchase.
Right, that was the 6 million, but then the 6
Right.
million is going to be made up for people like you and I and anybody and everybody.
Right.
Eversource customers.
Yeah.
So that was what I wanted to present to you. I'm sorry that I have to tell you about this. I would love to have been able to come in and say we're continuing to have a record of rates below the utility rate base, but we knew at the outset that the conditions were that the initial rates had to be lower. There was no guarantee that they would always be lower. I do have confidence that we will return to rates that are lower, but I can't predict this.
Any questions from the board?
Well, just a comment. I mean, we all sold this as to the community saying that the rates would be always lower than Eversource. So it's.
We didn't actually.
Didn't I hear that?
No.
No?
Oh, yeah.
No, we were very careful about that because.
Then my memory is different. Thank you.
I don't think that was generally, well, let's face it, not many people were listening to what we were having to say anyway, as evidenced by the lack of participation at the public meetings that we had. But no, we were careful about that.
Tracy?
So it's my understanding that the rate structure that we chose was one that also had the most positive or maybe mid-range positive impact on the environment. Am I correct in stating that we didn't choose that?
No, we chose the Granite Basic Rate, which is the same minimum standard that all of the utilities are required to comply by.
I just remember reviewing that and for some reason thought we had chosen.
Individuals are free to opt up and pick another rate, but no, that we have Granite Basic.
Well, there were 4 levels, weren't there?
There are 4 levels, but the default is the lowest.
Okay. Well, the reduction over the past year has been significant, at least for me personally, and I hope that most of the Barringtonites that are on that structure have seen that. I think we'll know more about how we should all proceed after this next rate cycle.
I agree.
Okay.
Paul, I think that the slide that you showed with the graph was very striking. The fact that going back several years ago when Eversource was as high as,
I think they were around 21 or 22.
Right, 20, 21 cents. And, now we're looking at all of them in the 8 or 9 cents, all within a cent or so of each other. So it's, keeping in perspective and remembering that community power has driven those rates down and saved residents of Barrington, slide showed. Still, even with this slight increase, saving the town about $150,000 across all its residents. So, and I think that the model of what they are trying to do still holds true and will help to keep prices down. And like we look at stocks and everything over long term, kind of have to hold up.
Something that occurs to me, what I've heard from residents that supported the plan to transition to community power aggregation was that this was a way to give all residents options, no options with no commitment, right? So residents always had some options, but they had to go to the third-party market on their own, negotiate contracts, typically termed contracts up to multiple years and beyond. And so by the community adopting community power aggregation, every resident in Barrington has, by default, two options that they can switch back and forth between during any rate period and with no penalty. Now, yes, that requires an action, right? But we all need to be advocates for ourselves. And if the community power aggregation model gave residents options beyond just the default rate for Eversource, now they have the ability. And in the last rate period where the community collectively was able to save almost $250,000, in this rate period, every community member is welcome to switch to the Eversource default rate and save the 0.7 cents for the rate period. And being perfectly honest, that's very likely what the town will do. The town is not in a termed agreement with power right now. The market hasn't been conducive to negotiating a termed contract. And so we've been utilizing the Community Power Coalition rate being lower, but making the best financial decision for the town. We'll likely make the phone call and switch to the Eversource default rate for those months. There's no penalty, there's no commitment, and when the rates are set for the next period, we'll have the opportunity to pick the lower rate and with a phone call, with no commitment, switch back and forth.
Just to be clear, what Connor is talking about is the power being purchased on the part of the municipality. He's not talking about opting out of community.
Yes, yeah, I apologize. The town is a customer. The town is an electricity customer. And so that option is something that residents didn't have a year ago today, right? They didn't have that option a year ago to get today. And what strikes me from a legislative perspective or from a policy perspective more so, because some of it's just at the PUC, is this competitive environment has lowered rates across the board. Now, very likely there are other contributing factors, but the pure fact that now there is more immediate and widespread, Paul mentioned participation of 25 to 30% of New Hampshire electric customers are part of the Community Power Coalition. And so that has lowered rates, has contributed to lower rates across the board. And that's the end goal, right? That being a primary goal for having competition, creating competitive environment that lowers rates and gives options. And we still have that, right? We have lower rates and we have options. And so, we'll be able to make a determination in the future, once there's more time with the community power and purchasing. But I appreciate the presentation for sure.
Can we post the presentation on the town?
I left a note for Tiffany, make sure she connected with Paul to get a copy of the presentation and post it with the minutes.
Paul, just one thing to community power. I hope they make it easy for people to move back and forth. So we were a household that had a third party provider for years. So we didn't have that 22 cents with Eversource. We were paying 8.9%. But I recently switched to community power, and that company has probably called at least 40 times trying to get us back.
Oh, to get you back.
So
sure.
I hope that community power makes this pretty seamless for people who do.
It should be very seamless. The other thing that I would mention is what the coalition is doing in terms of the dockets for net metering and this rate structure will also help out those third-party providers, because they're very much affected by these issues as well. So it's to their benefit as well, but they don't help. Anyway, thank you for the
Thank
time.
you.
I appreciate it. Want me to send this to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty, that is going to clear us for public hearings and invited guests, and that is going to move us on to the consent agenda, A through F as amended.
We accept the agenda, the consent agenda A through F as as amended.
Second. Roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Happy LOI.
Gibson, aye.
Sakosha, aye. Next, we are on appointments, and we do have quite the list of appointments to go over, all for discussion, no voting necessary. So we'll go through by line item. I'll look to the board. If we have any discussion, we'll talk. If not, we'll move on. Sound good for everybody?
Voting March 3rd on these?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep, this is just for discussion.
Yeah, I read through the whole list. It was
Good.
Absolutely appropriate.
Well, I'll take it from the top. Tax collector, Crystal Murky. Any discussion? Okay.
Jim, I think most of us have read this. Why don't you just ask if there's any discussion on any of these?
Suggestion?
Yeah, great suggestion. Any discussion from the board, A through J, on appointments? Okay, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and move out of appointments and on to staff reports. T.A. McIver.
Fantastic, thank you. February work anniversaries, our first and only meeting in February. Our building inspector, Jamie Jennison, hired 3 years ago this month. Remember, we hired him as a deputy, trained him up to take over for John Huckins upon his retirement. That has been a successful succession management plan. John Sardina in the police department joined us 2 years ago this month. Deliberative session review and ballot session information. So we held the deliberative session on Saturday. We discussed all of the articles to be presented on the March 11th warrant, and there were 0 changes, which is the first time that's happened in the 6 years I've been here. I think the members in attendance were appreciative of the presentations and the explanation, and we have worked to share that information, the presentation, to the community that wasn't able to make it to the meeting. The warrant information, the full warrant information, is available at barrington.nh.gov/2025 warrant. So this webpage has the most backup information for each warrant article. It has all the same information that's in the voter guide, but also links to more information and presentations and otherwise. If residents are going to just look at one document, the voter guide is the document to look at, barrington.nh.gov/2025 voter guide. And there's the entire budget binder at 2025 budget, and absentee ballot request link is also in my town administrator report. The efforts that we have undertaken in the last few years have continued to compound in the area of educating residents and making sure that they're aware of the election and can make informed decisions if they show up to vote. And so some of the things that we're doing again, and we're doing for the first time this year, you have that big 4-foot by 8-foot sign in the town center that has advertised our budget public hearings, our deliberative sessions, and the vote. And so a tremendous amount of Barrington residents drive by Route 9, and that's been up for almost a month now, or over a month by now. We also have those small election style signs around town, 8 of them, that advertise the 2 deliberative sessions, and those are being replaced with vote signs that will be up until March 11th. The voter guide, as we have discussed, is a comprehensive document that gives everybody the opportunity to understand every warrant article that they're going to vote on and make a determination that's right for them. What's That Warrant article is a Facebook feature that we started. That is already underway for the 2025 vote. So every day, do you want to just shut that door? Thank you. Every day, the one warrant article is featured on Facebook. The posts are at noon, and we encourage residents to share and comment on those posts to generate discussion and inform their fellow residents on each article they're going to be voted on. The idea being that this is in bite-sized pieces. The informational postcard, we have a final draft that's in your packet. I'll give you this opportunity to let me know if you'd like to see anything changed. This has gone through a couple of revisions. It lists the details. It urges residents to come out and break that 41% voter turnout record that we set last year. It shows them that they'll have the opportunity to have a collector's edition I voted sticker designed by Barrington kiddos. Anything any members want to see changed about that? Be more clear?
Looks awesome.
Great. So that will hit mailboxes in a couple of weeks, and we've gotten good feedback. That's a pretty efficient way to reach residents, about $2,500, and it's a postcard in every mailbox in Barrington. So on election day, the select board is expected to take shifts and be available to assist in the conducting of the election. And so please communicate to the chair your availability on March 11th.
So I think I'm out for that.
Okay.
You can be there. You can still be there. Yes. Yep. Talk to Ron.
I thought I remembered you saying you couldn't do it last year.
We will.
Everything okay?
We will build in the schedule. No.
Yes.
I will. I've got a gang that I used to work with. And because I thought you and I had a email exchange. And then who were strangers to us.
We can work to resolve that. That's why we do a two-step process for discussion for this precise reason. So we will get those cleared up.
You got it in hand now?
Yes.
Thank
All right,
you, Ken.
thanks for letting us know.
Good catch.
Thank you. So depending on the select board's availability, communicate to Jim and we will appoint pro tem appointments to fill in the scheduling gaps.
I'm also going to be holding signs outside for candidates. Another candidate, and but I can probably do like 10 to 1.
Yeah. Don't need to hammer it out now, but just
I can
keep
do
it in mind.
whichever, I usually take the evening, but whatever you need.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
I guess I'm available.
We'll chat a little bit
talk to
more
the
on
moderator.
March 3.
Yep.
We'll solidify it.
Available. I can be available most any time. I prefer afternoon, but fill in what you need. Fill in.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Great. So there'll be a candidate forum hosted by the moderator, Ron St. Jean, in this room on Thursday, February 20th. That will be available for virtual participation. It will also be recorded and available on the YouTube channel afterwards. The 6:30 to 6:45 will be an opportunity for the school board candidates they're running unopposed, but to be available to the community. And then 6:45 to 8 will be the 3 select board candidates. And so information on that, barrington.nh.gov/2025 candidate forum. I also included, please.
At least 2 people were unable to get onto the deliberative session for whatever reason. I know we passed that out, but at least 2 people have come to me having problems, so I'm not sure what the deal is on that.
The town deliberative.
One
The
simple
town-
thing to try is sometimes depends on what browser you're in, whether it's Firefox, Safari, or Google Chrome. Might be.
And this is possible. The deliberative session virtual meeting is a different structure than the regular select board meetings and the
Right.
candidate forum will be. The deliberative session is a one-to-all session. They call it a town hall in Teams. And so the end user experience should be similar, but there's no availability for participation. And so it's set up a little bit different. But I would encourage anybody that is concerned about their ability to access the candidate forum virtually to try to join any of the town's public meetings on Teams between now and then. And if they can get in there, they'll be able to get into the candidate forum. And then we have our contact information on, so we can help anybody with connection issues as well. But I appreciate that feedback. 2024 Select Board Annual Report. I tried desperately to condense this to 3 pages, and I obviously failed. The Select Board has done a lot in the last year. And, you know, there are a lot of items that the select board worked through or worked on in 2024 that aren't even in the report or summarized or captured. And so I'm happy to add or amend anything at your direction. But the goal was to create an accurate accounting of the work of the select board over the last year. Oh, great.
Well, that's because of T's.
I have to look it up.
Yeah, there's a T in the middle of it.
Or something that, like, yeah. So anyway, yeah.
And I'm hearing from Tiffany that she already caught that. So
Oh, you
we're in
did,
business.
you? Where'd you go?
Is this
Yes.
report the same one that's in the annual?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yep. This ends
Yeah,
up in-
very well written, and holy cow, did we get a lot done.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to toot our own horn, just holy cow, did we get a lot done.
Fantastic. So the Richardson Pond Dam ecological study, that's the biggest item that you have in your packet tonight.
It is very big.
So you'll remember that this study was commissioned for two main reasons. The first and primary reason was to allow the easement holder, Southeast Land Trust, and the Conservation Commission to appropriately evaluate what dam removal would look like for the prime wetland that's created by the Richardson Pond Dam and the rest of the ecology in the area. And so the kind of subsidiary reason was the Conservation Commission. This document creates a lot of very valuable information for the Conservation Commission about the ecology of that area, whether the dam's removed or not. And that's a valuable tool for the Conservation Commission in their efforts to take care of the property in their portfolio. So at the next meeting, the Conservation Commission Chair, Doug Bogan, will make a presentation. He's already prepared a memo in how the Conservation Commission has taken this information. If you have read the summary of the document, it does not favor dam removal.
Draw down or fix.
Yep. So I suspect that will also be the recommendation of the Conservation Commission, but we will discuss that at the next meeting. But I wanted to get this copy in hand. It's available online as well.
And so SELT is already looking at this?
Yes. So the select board reorganization. So this is our second to last select board meeting of this session. And so I want to put on your radar that at the first meeting following the election, so on March 17th, the first order of business will be the election of officers pursuant to the select board's rules of procedures. So I have that subset of the rules of procedures in here for your consideration. The next order of business is select board committee assignments. So the select board members, once they select a chair and vice chair, will need to communicate to the chair what committee assignments they are interested in or available for. And the select board is asked to do that so the chair can make a decision for the April 7th, 2025 meeting. So we don't have gaps there. Also, a few training opportunities just to have on your advanced calendar, and that's all that I have.
Excellent. MOA Connell, I don't believe we have anything. No old business, no new business. So we're going to move us right down to select board member reports. Select board member Manstrom.
School board had their deliberative session. Several of you attended, so they went through without any changes to their, was it 32,800,000 or something, 7.7% increase. Although they keep claim it's 1.1 above the default budget, but it went through with all the warrants approved. Transfer station meets Wednesday the 26th. We had a meeting the other day. Mr. Fox is going pretty well. Had some figures. Aaron has anything else that we had presented those figures earlier, but Mr. Fox appears to be going well. The numbers for Thursdays are lower than they are for Tuesday, but I think the people who come on Thursday do appreciate that very much. It's I think a very worthwhile thing, even though it's not as strong as Tuesday. Still it's about half of what Tuesday is, but I think that's probably a worthwhile thing to keep going.
Excellent work, team.
Library board is meeting, moving along. It appears that the building is on budget, on schedule. So we're still looking at June. And ABC is relaxing now.
Well deserved.
I have a question. Does the library know when they will be hiring a new director?
Interviews are ongoing.
Yeah, no, they don't have that. It's out there. People are, I don't know if they have any applications. They didn't when I at our last meeting, but I think they're expecting some people to apply. Do you know, Connor? I don't.
They were interviewing in this room just before this meeting.
No, okay.
So my understanding is that they're interviewing a handful of candidates, and I don't know if they know yet the candidate's availability to start, but they are prepared to maintain the operations of the library, assuming that there is a gap in service between the current library director and the next library director.
Clerkperson Hudikoff.
I think I reported at our last meeting on the zoning board, so I have nothing to share.
Excellent. Clerkperson Capiola.
Planning board was a little quieter than we expected. Both subdivisions, Oak Hill and Mary Hill, asked for continuances, so we didn't talk about those. We did talk about there is some money available through Stratford Regional Planning to do additional master plans, so one on stormwater and one on prime wetlands, which didn't seem to be as much interest to the planning board, and then water quality and conservation. Basically, the board wanted more information, made a decision. Like, available, that might be some interest. Greater detail.
Excellent. Vice Chair Gibson.
Last time I gave an update on the conservation, and energy was going to meet this past Thursday, but it was canceled because of the snowstorm. And Paul gave us an update on the community power rates. So nothing else new to report.
Excellent. Parks and Rec. Summer camp registration. Last week, they filled 110 spots in under an hour.
Oh my gosh. Lucky families.
And before and school after registration starts March 4th. And that is what I have for Parks and Rec update. So with that, we're going to enter our second public comment of the evening. If there's anybody in studio or online, please raise your hand. Seeing nobody in studio and or online, we're going to go ahead and close public comment. And I'll entertain a motion for non-public, for personnel and land.
Motion to enter non-public for purposes of personnel and land.
Second, roll call.
That's right. That's right, guy.
Hardikoff, aye.
Capello, aye.
Gibson, aye.
Scotia.
All right, microphone, camera.
I'd like to welcome everybody back to the select board meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion to enter public.
I move we enter public session after a non-public session.
Second, roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Capello, aye.
Gibson, aye.
Sakoshai.
Move we adjourn.
Second, roll
Make a
call.
motion to seal minutes for 6 months, say.
Yep, for,
Oh, wait, motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session for 6 months.
second, roll call.
Aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Capello, aye.
Gibson, aye.
Sakoshai.
Move to adjourn.
Second, roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Capello, aye.
Aye.
Sakoshai.